Welcome to the Woman's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, your moderator. The Woman's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned?
Welcome. They say do what you love and the money will follow. Well, my guest today is one such woman who found a niche that wasn't being addressed, and she created a whole website and a business around it. And I would like to welcome Christine Drinan. Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much, Barrie, for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so excited because you were working a so-called 9-to-5 job in the financial world, and you found something that wasn't being addressed. Would you like to explain a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be able to share the story about my company, Gallivant. 5 years ago, I was working at Blackstone, a large private equity firm, and instead of 9 to 5, it was more 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 every day. And it was a great company that I worked for, and I really enjoyed the people. But I had always felt that there was something else out there for me, though I didn't really know exactly what that was. And over the course of the years that I worked at Blackstone, I would look at the people who were super successful at the firm, like the vice chairman, and they were so passionate about what they were doing. And my realization came one day when I was in our offices overlooking Park Avenue, and I realized that I was never, ever going to be as passionate about our business as some of our managing directors and our vice chairman of the firm. And that's when I really decided that I needed to figure out what it was that I was passionate about. And of course, our company went public, and I waited several more years, but eventually I was traveling back and forth because my husband was doing a really large restructuring in Europe for his job, and I was traveling to see him on the weekends because we've been married 17 years, and the reason why our marriage works is because we see each other every single week. And during that time, I was trying to find good resources for people like us, who I classified as the working jet set. And I couldn't find good travel resources that would give us cool restaurants and places to stay and things to do. There were great things for backpackers. There were great things for people who were more in the retirement phase of their life, but there was this whole valuable demographic of people that were not being served. So hence the idea and the spark of the inspiration came for Gallivant. Of course, me being a finance person, I didn't just pick up and leave my job right away. I really thought about whether or not there was a compelling business to be able to create a large travel community for the higher end traveler. And so, like any good finance person, I put together a business plan. And I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the team that I could build. And after a period of six months or so, I realized that there was really a compelling business. And of course, there were a number of sessions with my husband, with my friends, with people who I put together as an advisory board to see whether or not this was something that could be viable. But finally, at the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, I enrolled at Columbia Business School, and I decided to take the plunge and create my company, Gallivant.
How did you come up with the name Gallivant?
I was a young child. I think back now with so much empathy for my mother, but I was one of those kids who could never sit still. I constantly had to be doing an activity or playing with friends or doing something with my time rather than just sitting around. And my mother said to me with so much frustration as I was growing up that she couldn't understand why I couldn't just be still and why I had to be constantly gallivanting around all the time. And so that really stuck with me as I was growing up and as I became a working professional, where I've always just had this drive to constantly be doing something productive. And when it came time to come up with a name for my company, Gallivant stuck in my mind because of what my mother had told me when I was younger. And then also it really describes what we do. We wander around the world and we find the best of everything. And the best doesn't mean the most expensive. The best in many cases means the most authentic. And so I felt that it was the best name, and it also really encapsulated what we were doing at our company.
Well, let's just back a second. You came up with your name and you did your business plan. So you went to school to learn to do a business plan, or did you know how to do a business plan before.
I knew how to do a business plan before. So I went to school really to be able to reset. I went to business school at Columbia, which provided a really strong base of knowledge in finance, and entrepreneurship was something that I focused on. But it was much more higher level skills that I focused on at Columbia. I knew how to do a business plan already, but I was able to enhance my knowledge from all the professional experiences that I had, and I was able to take the classes and really apply them to building a business. So where I knew how to put together a marketing plan when I went to Columbia, I really knew how to analyze that marketing plan. Where I understood valuation prior to Columbia, now I really understood the viewpoint of the venture capitalists who would be looking at my company as a potential investment. So it really enhanced the knowledge that I had, and it also gave me a great network of people and eventually investors into my company.
Did you go full-time or did you go part-time, like after work?
I did
Of course, if you work 9 to 9, it's a little hard to go after work.
Exactly. Well, when I started at Columbia Business School, I left my job at Blackstone. And so I did the executive MBA program. And while I was doing the executive MBA program, I worked full-time on my business Gallivant. And that was far more than 9 to 9. Then my hours became 7 to midnight every night. But it was a completely different feel and a different passion that I was taking to my job every day.
They say, you know, oh, you work on your own, you have your own business, you can make your own hours. Somehow that doesn't fly. You're worse than 24/7. I mean, you don't have enough hours in the day. Now, did you have problems raising financing to start this business?
So for me, I was able to put a really significant amount of financing into my company on my own when I first started. And also, of course, with the support of my husband, because someone put the roof over our heads. But when we were ready to go out for our friends and family round of financing, I had a lot of support from the people that I'd worked with in my previous career, and also through all the contacts that I'd made, having a career in finance for over 10 years.
Were they jumping on the bandwagon, or did they analyze, or did they just say, oh, Christine is doing this, it's got to be good, I'll invest some money?
All of the above. So I had a number of people who just knew me and had known me for many, many years who immediately wrote a check. They said, we've known you, we know how determined you are, and we also know that you can really build this business. We believe in you as a CEO. And so for those people, it was more of, we want you to succeed, here's our investment. For others, it was, do you really have a compelling business idea? Where we would go through our revenue streams, we would go through our expense, we would go through what potential valuation scenarios would be. So it really ranged the gamut from the investors that we brought on. And I have to say that once we started taking on investors who did not know me, it was a huge vote of confidence and a huge compliment to me that somebody who did not know me personally, as well as those people who do know me personally, of course, because I deeply appreciated the investment. But once we started taking in investors who didn't know me, I realized that we really had a compelling business.
Now, how do you structure, I don't know if I'm getting into an area that's personal that you don't want to talk about, but I'm just kind of curious, do you have, okay, this person invests $5,000, that person invests $100,000. Is there shares, a percentage? How does that work out so you don't get left with nothing?
Well, how it works is typically for a friends and family round of financing, and this is for probably 95% of the startup companies that are out there and that are structured properly, is you do a convertible note. So it comes in the form of a note that eventually converts to equity after a period of time at a valuation at that time.
Oh, interesting. So this is all on your way to an IPO.
Well, you know what? What I've learned in this business is never to say never, because I once said that we would never be doing full-on service travel bookings, but now we're doing full-on service travel bookings. So an IPO really was not in the cards, though that is something now that we've really built this compelling business that could be in the pipeline one day. What I see as a little bit more realistic is having a strategic partner come in who we feel the need for in the luxury space, and that wants our company that not only provides really great editorial, we provide great travel recommendations, We have a membership program with some very cool events, and we're building this beautiful community of people who are the working jet set and who are passionate about travel and entertainment. And then we also have a full-on service travel booking. So I think that at some point it might be a compelling business for somebody to acquire if they want an entire suite of travel benefits within one company.
Now, you said that you cater basically to the working jet set. What is the criteria for the working jet set? I mean, there's the businessman who's constantly traveling. Do they fall into this category, or is it a different category, like the first class category?
Well, it's actually all of the above as well. So the working jet set is the professional that has limited time, has some nice resources to be able to spend money on travel, and they really want the rock star itinerary of where to stay, what to do, where to eat, the really things that make a city special, and want to know what the locals will be doing in any particular city. So it's anyone within that demographic of people who are passionate also about travel and really enjoy it who are our clients. And that's anyone who is the analyst who's just starting out and has a couple dollars in their pocket to the super, super high-end net worth clients that we have.
Do you cater more to men or women?
So that's a really interesting question, because our website, which was started by, we have the founder of Urban Daddy, co-founder of Urban Daddy, Matt Lux, who's on my board, and he has a nice heavy hand in our editorial. And Urban Daddy is a more male-focused magazine, which is why our website has over 55% males who read our content and 45% females. But the other vertical of our business, which is the travel booking, I would say that 95% of our clients are females who are planning vacations for their significant others, for their families, for themselves and their friends, and then the other 5% are male. So it really does go with the demographic that women do most of the actual execution of the travel planning. But I will say that the men that we do have as our travel clients who do the bookings for their families, they are some of the savviest travelers I've ever encountered.
You just came back from a trip. You look like you just got out of bed and out of the shower. I mean, what tips can you share with us that keeps you so alive and not jet lagged?
Well, I worked with a doctor several years ago on an article that I did for the Huffington Post. Her name's Dr. Suram, and she really gave me some great tips for jet lag. At the end of the day, there is no cure for jet lag. And I personally believe, being on the road about once a month and traveling about 100 days a year, that it's a lot of jet lag. Overcoming jet lag is mind over matter. So it's like putting yourself in that spot. But there are definitely things that I do, like I drink a ton of water when I'm traveling. So both on the airplane and also after my flight, I just constantly hydrate. I have vitamin C tablets that I travel with. And then I also schedule my activities. So where it would be super easy to come and just crash out when I land in a destination, I always plan something really interesting. And that was one of the pieces of advice that I got from the doctor that I worked with on my jet lag article, is plan something that you're looking forward to. And if you absolutely have to take a nap, then take a very short one, 20 to 30 minutes. Once you start to succumb to jet lag and do the long 2 to 3 hour nap, then your schedule is off for the rest of the trip. So for me, it's really important to maximize my time. So for jet lag, I get to a city and I just hit it.
Wow. I know, because if I do a European trip, I'm like a little groggy because I don't sleep on the planes. Do you sleep on the plane?
I get some of my best sleep on the flight between New York and Tokyo, because I have 13 hours of complete and utter silence. And that's where I really catch up on a lot of sleep. I think that when you're traveling a lot, sleep is critical, first off. And you just have to learn how to sleep on an airplane, whether you're flying coach or whether you're flying business class.
I've never mastered it.
Well, we'll have to practice.
That sounds like a great idea. I like that. I love traveling. What are the things that I was going to say, not super rich, because that takes one tier, but the people who travel the most, what do they basically look for when they go into a city? I know you said that what's going on, the hotels, but how do they differ from the regular economy class?
So the higher end traveler, at the end of the day, everyone, whether you're an economy class traveler or whether you're a highly affluent private plane traveler, people are looking to be treated well. They're looking for people to be courteous to them, to have the logistics really in place. I think the big difference between our economy class travelers and those who are our higher end travelers is our higher end travelers just have done a lot. They've been to the most exquisite, expensive places that you can possibly ask for, and that's not necessarily what they're looking for all the time. And so what I really think differentiates the two is the level of service that they require, and also the level of details that have to be taken care of when somebody who's super high end is traveling. So sometimes they have really particular suites that they like to stay in within a hotel, or they have a particular seat that they want in first class on an airplane, or they have a particular private plane carrier that they want to use. So there's some really fine details that we take care of for our higher end clients that aren't always addressed with our other clients that we have.
Well, going back to an airline seat, if you're booked on a commercial flight, how can you guarantee that particular seat is available? Do you kick somebody out, or do you book them on somebody else? Book them on another flight?
No, I mean, we always try to get our clients like their first preferences. So we request the seat. And if it's available, we book it. If not, then we have other alternatives as well. So that's the other thing about travel, is that you always have to be able to pivot, because things happen. Weather delays or traffic prevents you from getting to the airport on time. So there are a number of things that we're always prepared to handle. We had, for example, an amazing client who's normally used to flying private, but for reasons that just were from a practical standpoint, we put her on a commercial flight. She called me and asked me if she was running late, if we could hold the commercial flight. What we did was we did something better, because commercial flights don't wait. We had handlers on the curbside waiting for her by the time the car pulled up. People personally put her luggage onto the trolleys and loaded it onto the airplanes themselves. She was VIP'd through the airport to make it through security and made a flight that otherwise she never would have made. So for us, it's really about having the right resources in place and being able to pivot, because things change all the time in travel.
That's true. You never know when you're going to be locked in a city.
Exactly.
Well, for example, what happens when you're locked into a city? How do they change their plans in the moment, at the drop of a pin, especially if a city is booked up? What happens then?
Well, luckily we have amazing travel resources and virtually every destination around the world. We have very strong travel partners whose job really it is to address those emergency type situations. So I'm going to knock on wood and tell you that we have not had a situation yet where we've not been able to accommodate a client who has been unexpectedly delayed in a city.
What do you see travel going forward? Do you see people traveling more, traveling less, becoming more demanding? And how do you see the people who are in the travel industry catering to these? I'm not going to say demanding, because I don't think anybody is demanding when they expect to get service for what they're paying for, but going one step beyond.
Well, first off, I think that our economy is much more global. And so I think that people are going to be traveling a lot more for work, and it's going to be both domestic travel and it's also going to be a lot of international travel. And that's just evident in even the statistics that have been created since 2011, where people are traveling more for work. There's been single-digit increases every single year in both business travel and also leisure travel. So while it's not quite pre-2008, I think that people are more confident and they're also spending more money on travel. What I think that means is that while you can spend outrageous amounts of money on the most expensive hotel in town, I don't think that's enough for your average luxury traveler. I think that they really need to have the most top-level experiences and also the great service that comes along. And just because a hotel is expensive doesn't mean that it's going to give you the best experience or the best service. And so I think that the hotel industry and also the travel industry in general is really going to step up their game when it comes to service, and also step up their game, at least what we do, in providing the best recommendations and the best research possible. So what makes us really unique is that I come from a Wall Street background, and our other contacts all have come from backgrounds where they're working professionals. So all of our recommendations come from people who are the working jet set. And that's something that really makes us unique in the industry, because no other website, no magazine, and no travel agency can say that they have former investment bankers, people who worked in private equity, hedge fund managers, curating the recommendations. We don't have to guess what our travelers want. We are our travelers. And so we're really on the cutting edge of the destinations that are relevant to our demographic, and also the recommendations within those cities that would be interesting to the people that are our clients.
Well, you just came back, as I said, from a trip, and you checked out a yacht. Now, when you think about it, a yacht is glorious. I mean, it's gorgeous. You see all these wonderful pictures, but yet you said it didn't live up to your client's potential. Can you share what was not, I don't know the right word, I mean, made it a 98 versus 100%?
Well, first, the yacht that I was on was absolutely exquisite. It's one of the most well-known yachts in the region of Turkey that we're in. It's a 111-foot glorious sailboat. But I have clients who know when the medical kit is not up to EU standards. I have clients who have owned super yachts who are now chartering their own boats, and they expect the most top level of service and the most top level of detail. And so unless it's something that I've personally experienced or our network of working jet set travelers have experienced, and it meets up to those standards, it's not something that I book for my clients.
So you must go on a lot of, I was going to say, checking them out trips. What's the right word for that?
Well, the irony... Research. Well, I will say that having a background in finance where you do a lot of due diligence, we do due diligence on travel like we would do due diligence on an investment. And while I can't be everywhere, we have the right network of people at Gallivant who have been places that I haven't been either, and that are within our trusted network. And that's really something that we're building this community of working jet set travelers who can reliably share their recommendations together. And while I do get to travel some really exceptional places around the world, it's ironic that our business has grown so much over this past year, and we've really changed. We've changed from being purely an editorial and recommendations website to being a website that does full service travel bookings, that does events for our community of working jet set travelers, and that gives really amazing perks from our partners that range from boutique hotels to large portfolio of hotels like the Six Senses, for example. So we have the irony is I have to spend much more time in New York working with our amazing partners than I used to when our company was still growing, and I was able to travel so much more around the world. But for me, I'm a business person as well as somebody who's passionate about travel. So it's really exciting for me as an entrepreneur to be able to see our business get to this next level where I am required to be in New York much more often.
Now, your clients are basically from finance, and then you're spreading out. Are they basically New York centric, or are they around the world?
We have clients around the world because I have a business partner who's in Dubai. Okay. And she is a divisional CFO for a very large luxury group in the Middle East. And so she has a whole network of people who are our clients. We also have a very strong London contingency and a very strong New York. So we have clients from all around the world. And a lot of people are in finance and luxury goods and lawyers, but now we've also started to bring in some of the very high net worth clients who aren't not necessarily, they've had exits in their businesses, or they just have generational wealth. So we run the gamut within the high-end travel.
Do you find that a lot of this is gearing more towards the seniors who have more time to travel? Or is it still the working jet setter?
It still is the working jet setter, because we fill a really specific niche where there's this whole demographic of people who are just not being addressed in the market. And we're giving them a place that they can come to reliably get inspiration and ideas for where they should be traveling, and a place where they could share their recommendations together and also interact together at our events, because our events are pretty spectacular. We have one tonight, actually.
Now, is there a membership fee to join your organization, or what?
Yes, so we're on a freemium level of membership. So there's a free level where you can take a peek around our website and see some of our really great articles and recommendations. And then there's a business class level, which gives you full access to our website, as well as our cookbook, and also our travel concierge, and we're getting an online booking tool that's going to be available. And that level is our business class level at $59. And then we have a first class level, which gives you all of those things at business class, but also an extra special travel concierge and a lot of benefits. So for example, one of our partners is the Island in Mystique, and they provide our clients something like $300 to $400 of complimentary spa treatments or wine dinners or outdoor activities, depending upon what our clients are interested in. So there's some really amazing perks that no one else is providing.
I just thought of something. You travel so much. Do you just zip through the line? I call it Checkpoint Charlie. I mean, going to the airports. I mean, I was catching a plane in London. I was switching. I flew into London on BA, and I was flying out on BA, and I had to go through everything, immigration, checkpoint. How do you zip through? What's the secret?
Well, the secret is finding an airline that you like to fly and being loyal to it. Because if you don't have status nowadays on most airlines, you're going to be charged baggage fees. You're not going to get priority boarding. To pick a seat, you're going to have to pay some extra money. So it's really important to choose an airline that you like and stick with them as much as you can. The other thing, though, is sometimes it just comes down to basically asking for help. I was just transiting through the Turkish airport when I was from an international to a domestic flight, and I had less than an hour to do so. Otherwise, I would have completely missed my boat. And I just asked for help. I found somebody in the line. I made eye contact with this person, and I said, listen, I'm trying to transit through the airport. Can you help me out? And sometimes it's just something as basic as that, as somebody having the goodness of their own heart to let you cut the line with them so you make that connection.
It pays to be nice.
It does. And I think that's like a general good philosophy of life.
Very true. It's interesting because you say people are particular. When you're paying for something, there's a point of being aggressive. There's a point of being nice and doing whatever addressing the problem. I know on this BA flight that I was doing, I wrote them a letter and I said, a soggy croissant that's been cold is not going to do it for breakfast. And I was flying coach. They gave me 3,000 miles for my miles, which is nice. But I'd rather not have a soggy, cold croissant. So,
and that's kind of the point you were bringing up earlier. It's about customer service. What's the travel industry doing? They are reacting, and they are addressing the concerns much more efficiently than they were ever. Like, for example, like you called BA and you told them that you had a soggy croissant and the food didn't meet your expectations. Immediately they addressed your concerns. Hopefully they'll fix it, first off, but they gave you 3,000 miles. So I think that that's just a trend in the travel industry in general, because each and every single consumer has the power now, because of the internet, to make or break a business. And an airline or a hotel or a restaurant gets enough consistent reviews that certain things are not meeting expectations, and that really will make a difference as to whether or not they can continue to be a successful business. And so as the consumer, you really have that power, and I think that the travel industry in general has had to pivot and really address all of those concerns of their clients. And I think that's going to ultimately step up the level of service that we're going to get.
I hope it also steps up the level of knee room in the seats with what's going on. I tell you. it's terrible.
You know, it is, but something else I've been seeing is that a lot of airlines are starting to upgrade their planes. And I was at an Air France conference, which partners with KLM and Delta, and I had the opportunity to experience their new economy class, their new business class, and their new first class. And all of those experiences were significantly upgraded. And granted, not everyone, you know, it's not optimal to fly coach, but everyone has to fly coach every so often,
Right.
or a lot of people have to fly coach. But even their coach experience is something that's been elevated. And I think that you get a leader like that in the industry to upgrade their airplanes, and everyone else will have to follow to remain competitive.
I think that's great because I can tell you stories about somebody who is 6 foot, looks like a football player.
Yes.
His knees were in the back of my seat the whole trip. And on top of that, he kept, if my seat was upright, he would come and bump into my headset, headrest. And he would do this, and all of a sudden I said, So the first time he did it, I let my seat back go back. So he said, oh, you know, like he couldn't do it anymore. So as we're landing, he decides to do it again. And I turned around and I just slammed the seat right into his head.
Oh my gosh.
You know, this was not called for. There was no reason for him to butt heads on my seat. But anyway, when you go into a city and you're cold turkey, how do you research it?
Well, first, there's a great deal of work that we do prior to even stepping foot in a city. I reach out to my network, and our team at Gallivant reaches out to their networks to be able to get recommendations that we can potentially use within our articles and within our travel guides. So we do a lot of due diligence before we even step in the city. I look at all of the major magazines as to what they're recommending. And then when I get to a city, I have an entire list of places and a really detailed, very rigorous itinerary for what I'm going to accomplish during that time. So, for example, I was just in Copenhagen, which really is one of the most trending cities right now in travel. Not only because Noma, which is voted the best restaurant in the world, is there, but also there are so many other chefs that have come from Noma and are now opening up their own restaurants, that Copenhagen has really become one of the hotbeds of the culinary scene.
Oh, wow.
So when I go to a city, if I have 3 days, I have 2 days, I have 4 days in any city, it's not that I'm just going to one place for lunch. I'm going to 4 places for lunch. And I'm waking up at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm starting and I'm hitting everything from the destinations and getting the insider perspective. I'm talking to people who are on the ground. I'm researching the places that have been recommended to us. I'm meeting with people who are locals. At times, I'll do interviews with the chefs, and I'll be able to get the lay of the land on the culinary scene from them. But like I said, it's more than just leisurely experiencing a place. We do so much due diligence when we're in a city, and we really try to experience everything, because every single recommendation that we give you at Gallivant not only is something that is recommended by someone who's part of the working jet set, so it's somebody who's your peer, but it's also something that we've personally experienced.
Do you have a checklist that you keep on each place? Yes, no, maybe?
Well, first, I have a very good memory on things, which is both a blessing and a curse at times too. But we take a lot of notes. After every restaurant and every interview that I do, I'm typing up notes that we're able to provide to our editorial team as we create the guides and the articles for our recommendations.
Do you carry a laptop with you?
I have a laptop with me all the time. My laptop is like one of the most critical pieces that I carry in my luggage, and I never check luggage. So that laptop and my work is definitely one whole bag of my carry-ons.
Christine, you zip through the airport. You carry your laptop with you. You don't check luggage. How much clothing do you take?
So one of my tips is always create a packing list before you even start taking anything out of your closet. And my packing list is extremely concise. It goes with the meetings that I'm going to have during the day and what I'm going to need to wear for those meetings. And then it's about mixing and matching. It's about bringing a scarf to create a totally different outfit or look with a sweater that you can wear twice. I never have any qualms about repeating clothing. on my trips, and sometimes that scarf will actually become a shirt that I'll make it into. So it's really about being versatile with what you have, and also creating that packing list and being disciplined to not throw those extras in. And then also shoes. Really, shoes are what weigh down your baggage the most. So shoes should be, you should always wear the heaviest shoes that you have first to transit through the airport, and then you want to make sure that you have very edited amount of shoes that you're taking with you on a trip.
So, for example, you're going for 4 days. How many different outfits would you say that you bring?
Well, I have enough outfits to look like enough pieces to look like it's different outfits every day, but that white shirt that I'm going to wear on safari, for example, for the first day is going to show up later on for dinner 2 days later. So it's really about not being afraid to use some of the same things twice, but also changing up the look with accessories.
Sounds great. Do you buy a lot of travel clothes, special travel clothes, or anything's a travel clothes?
So I am not a good shopper. I do probably 99% of my shopping online when I'm here in New York. If I'm in a city, for example, like I was just in Copenhagen, I picked up a scarf from a local designer. And it's just about like putting together accessories and having your own personal style that you're able to mix and match things that are basics, and then having a couple of special pieces that you throw in. But it's really, for me, I've never had anyone tell me that I don't look complete on a trip, thankfully. In fact, I just had someone tell me, wow, you had one small carry-on, but yet every single piece that you brought out was perfectly appropriate for either the dinner or the sailing or the specific event that we're doing on the trip.
In the closing moments of the show, what would you like to leave the audience with?
I think starting a business is not for everyone. In theory, it sounds really great to start a business and to be your own boss, but it really has to be something that, one, you have an idea that you're passionate about. 2, you have an execution plan, because really execution is key. You can have great ideas, but unless you're able to implement those ideas, it's not going to be something that's going to be successful. The other thing is surround yourself with the right people. One of the first things I did in my business was I created an advisory board, and they've been so incredibly important to helping guide me through difficult times, because every single business has difficult times. And they've also been a good sounding board and a really strong support system. So that's incredibly important too. And then you also have to be passionate about your business. You go through highs and you go through lows. You have to remain even keel, but you also have to love what you're doing. You know, I came from a place where my path was defined. Had I stayed in that path, whether or not I still would have worked for the same firm, I still would have been in the same industry, and there's really a defined path. And that would have been good. But Voltaire once said that good is the enemy of great. And so what I've done with Gallivant is we're really trying to achieve the great. Whether or not we ultimately get there, that still remains to be seen, but we're incredibly grateful for how far we've come, and we have a vision and a path for where we expect to go.
Christine, this has been so fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I'm just delighted. I want to need another person to go check places out.
Please join us.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you for joining us. I hope this has been very enlightening for you as an entrepreneur or thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. We'd love to hear from you. Please write us here at The Woman's Connection. Bye now.